There is a strange, almost universal truth in tennis. The warm-up lies to you. Every single time. It convinces you of things that aren't real. It gives you confidence you didn't earn, fear you don't need, and expectations that fall apart the moment the first point begins. The warm-up is where your brain tells you one story, but the match tells you another. And the emotional gap between those two realities is where players suffer the most. Today, we're going to explore why this happens on a psychological level. Why you can hit effortlessly in warm-up, yet feel stiff and shaky during the match. Why your timing feels perfect one moment and completely gone the next. Why you look smooth at 50% but lose everything at 100%. And why the warm-up is possibly the most misleading moment in tennis. Let's begin with the most obvious illusion. The warm-up is not tennis. It feels like tennis. It looks like tennis. But psychologically, it operates on a completely different emotional system. Warm-up is safe. There is no scoreboard, no consequence, no identity threat, no pressure, no story attached to each shot. In the warm-up, nothing is at stake, which frees your nervous system from the emotional activation that defines competitive play. You swing freely not because your technique is perfect, but because your brain believes there is nothing to protect. The moment the match starts, everything shifts. The brain switches from expression to survival, and survival changes your swing. Suddenly, you are not swinging to hit the ball. You're swinging to avoid disappointment, embarrassment, failure, or identity damage. In warm-up, your body is honest. In the match, your body becomes guarded. That alone creates the first major lie of the warm-up, the belief that physical fluidity equals readiness. But fluidity only exists in the absence of fear. The second lie is subtler. Warm-up tricks you into believing that consistency exists without emotional weight. You hit 10 forehands in a row and think, I'm dialed in today. But consistency in the warm-up is not mastery. It's simply routine. You're repeating a controlled, predictable pattern with no decision-making involved. The brain loves repetition. It reduces cognitive load. That's why warm-up feels smooth. Not because your game is ready for battle, but because your brain isn't being asked to make choices. The moment the match begins, choosing becomes more important than hitting. And that's where players begin to fall apart. The third lie, the warm-up flatters your timing. When you hit with someone who is giving you predictable pace, predictable spin, and no intentions behind the ball, your timing feels perfect. But real tennis is unpredictable. You can't rehearse chaos. And the warm-up is completely stripped of chaos. There is no rush, no sudden acceleration, no surprise trajectory. The warm-up becomes a curated version of tennis, a curated version of reality. It tells you, you've got this today. But that message is based on conditions that will evaporate the moment intention enters the rally. Warm-up is the trailer, not the movie. The fourth lie is emotional. Warm-up amplifies both hope and fear. If you play well, you feel confident, and that confidence becomes fragile the moment things go wrong. If you play badly, you panic. And that panic becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. In both cases, the warm-up becomes the emotional foundation for your story before the match has even begun. You react to a dozen meaningless balls as if they predict the future. And your brain loves predicting the future, even when it has no data. Warm-up becomes a mirror in which you look for signs of destiny. If I hit badly now, I'll play badly. If I hit well now, I'll play well. The warm-up lies because you treat it like a prophecy instead of a preparation. But the deepest lie of the warm-up is this. It convinces you that tennis is about how you hit the ball. It is not. Tennis is about how you respond to pressure. Warm-up hides pressure from you, and that makes you believe you are ready for something you haven't actually felt yet. You judge yourself on aesthetics, on rhythm, on fluidity. But tennis will judge you on courage, on composure, on decision-making. Warm-up lies because it removes everything that actually matters. So what's the truth? The truth is that the warm-up is not supposed to tell you how good you are. It is supposed to wake you up. It is not a forecast, it is a transition. It moves you from daily life into the emotional reality of competition. It prepares the body, the breath, the joints, the eyes, but it does not and cannot prepare the competitive mind. And yet the mind tries to extract meaning from it. This is why so many players obsess over their warm-up performance. You treat it like a test. But it's not a test. It's a stretch with a ball. So how do you stop falling for the warm-up illusion? The first step is to understand this. The warm-up reveals nothing about your match readiness. The match reveals your match readiness. Tennis begins after the first point, not before. Your real game emerges only under emotional weight, under uncertainty, under fear, under pressure. And that game will not look like your warm-up, and that's normal. The second step is to detach emotionally from the warm-up. You must stop interpreting it. Stop reading into it. Stop letting it define your expectations. Your warm-up can be awful, and you can still play the best match of your life. Your warm-up can be perfect, and you can still crumble under pressure. The warm-up has no predictive value, only narrative value. And you are the one creating the narrative. The third step. Build confidence from who you are as a competitor, not from how you look in warm-up. The warm-up is a performance-free environment. The match is your actual environment. And if you rely on warm-up for confidence, you will always feel unsteady. Because your confidence will depend on conditions instead of identity. Instead of saying, "I warmed up well today," learn to say, "I know how to handle myself when it matters." And now, here is your CTA, clear, direct, and emotionally aligned. If this episode helped you understand why your warm-up lies to you, stay with this channel for more psychological insights that reveal what really happens inside your mind during competition. Share this episode with someone who spirals emotionally after a bad warm-up. They may finally understand that nothing was ever wrong with them. And tell me in the comments, are you the player who feels unstoppable after a perfect warm-up, or the player who falls apart before the match even starts? Your story might give someone else the clarity they've needed for years. And now your closing message. Your warm-up does not define you. It does not predict your future. It does not decide your performance. The match begins when the ball matters. And the part of you that shows up in that moment, the courageous part, the resilient part, the honest part, that is your true game. Not the warm-up version, not the rehearsed version, but the version that faces fear and chooses to compete anyway. That version deserves your trust far more than any perfect or imperfect warm-up ever could.